adoption of the agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda with the additions of under 7.1, the Chambers Gala, and under 9.0, confidential personnel.
7.2.
7.2.
7.2 is the Chambers Gala, 9.0 in-camera personnel.
The rest is just for information.
Okay, perfect.
You got that? All in favor? Okay, scheduled delegations. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, fair unification.
How are you? So I did hand out a letter to each and every one of you. What Hybrid Beautification is actually looking at doing is revitalizing McIntyre Park. That's the park across from the train bureau. We want to replace some of the trees because some of those poplars are starting to look a little hazardous and they're not allowing the grass to grow. So we want to put a little more function into the park. And we want to add some tables, green it up a little bit, just to kind of hopefully get a chain reaction going within the town to beautify everything, starting with downtown. So I've come to you for permission because it is town land, and with a donation in kind, the value of the land, to start applying for government grants to get the ball rolling on this. And I have ATCO and West Fraser are, they haven't committed, but in speaking with them, it's been very positive that they will help with the cleanup, as well as building some of the tables and chairs. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Do you have anything to say, Mary, on the topic?
No, I think she's covered it all. We just really want to know, can we do this?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to? Like, before we get too carried away, I figure we better come to town and find out if it's what we have to do to be able to do this, and if there's any laws, procedures, or can we just go ahead and do it?
So does anybody have comments or questions for?
My question would be to ask the CAO, are they allowed to go ahead? Do we need to make this another agenda item?
I don't believe it has to be another agenda item. Council can make that decision here tonight.
No.
Okay,
Take
I can-
that.
Anything that comes out of the delegation, we can't make a decision.
We have to send it
But-
back to administration to bring back to the next council
Okay.
meeting with more information.
However, Jim,
Does anybody have comments or questions? Councillor.
Just a clarification, you asked for the value of the land in kind as the donation.
Yeah. What I'd like to do, I've read on a few government sites that the only way to receive grant money is to have the dollar for dollar what the town gives. And I just figured the value of the land, I don't want your money, I want somebody else's. But to use the value of the land as the donation. Not to take title, that's not what I'm saying, but just if the value of the land is worth 30,000, I can go to the governments and say, I have an in-kind donation for $30,000, and I'm not sure how that looks like because this is the first time I've ever done something like this. But this is just to kind of get the ball rolling.
I really like the idea, and I thank you for stepping up and volunteering and doing all this. I'm trying to wrap my head around though that unless there's a title transfer, there's no donation, unless there's cash or title.
And we kind of talked about that at our beautification meeting, and we didn't think that there'd have to be a title transfer. We thought possibly a lease or just even a letter of support to show that, to the people where I would be applying for grants could see that total, but not a title transfer. We don't want it, we just want to revitalize it.
Have something we can put on the ground saying,
Yeah.
we got this much support or from the town, eh? So they can match it, or I don't know how it works either, but
Yeah, on the websites that I've read, it was, and it even said it could be an in-kind contribution from the municipalities.
Yeah, one of the things that often happens for the charities is if somebody comes out and, like at the golf course, right?
Right.
When Cox's dug that big pit, which they're gonna use for water, that was a donation in kind. So they're gonna get a value of what it actually would have been worth, and they could take that, go back and have that matched dollar for dollar.
Right.
So that's huge. I just don't, I'm trying to find a way of making it work, you know.
No, I totally understand, and I'm still learning the process as well. It's just, we needed the permission, and I just kind of threw the donation in kind as just gonna be looking.
Councillor Knappel.
I think it's a great idea and really commend you for taking the bull by the horns and getting after, which is great. So, and there might be, once Quentin might be onto something where we can't. It might be difficult to claim that, but the town, if you know what you're going to do, and maybe there's something that the town's public works people could work at and help there. And you already mentioned some of the in-kind that West Fraser would put towards, and I forget who else you said, but that's...
Atco Electric.
Oh, Atco,
Yeah.
okay, so those two might be, you could use those, cause they're gonna give you some, those are in-kind donations.
Right, and that, yeah, I would be using those as well.
And I'll put a bug in your ear after you're done that one, something like right across the road there. If you have any good ideas for that, we'd love to hear them.
Mayor Potts.
The only thing I would ask is that administration check to see what happened with the skate park, because they were in the same mind with the land issue. And what did we end up, I don't know whether we ended up leasing it to them or, so we might be, but investigate to find out what, cause I think that they were in the same boat that you will be in, trying to get grants and not owning the land.
Right.
Anybody else have comments?
I know that this discussion has been ongoing for 2 years in our household, and I certainly know that people from beautification have been aware of Tricia's desire to do this. In the past experience that I've had in writing grants for college, the town has been able to provide the in-kind contribution as a value added component to the grant. They can provide that land as value because it has value. Again, being Alberta, there might be some differences, but there's ways around it, and some of the grant funding would be federal as well as provincial. So there's some things there that you've been able to get. West Fraser and Atco, two of our biggest contributors in this community, on board is to be commended. So I think you're getting all the cards lined up and now getting the horse there. So hopefully come to fruition.
Thank you guys very much for bringing this forward, but I do have a few comments.
Okay.
Yay, and very glad to see that there's people that are willing to sort of do things that really need to be done in the community. I've been part of so many organizations through council and just personally, where I see the lack of volunteers in the community is apparent, and it's nice to see that somebody's got the initiative, so good on you guys. I think what we need actually here is to consider mostly what you guys are sort of discussing, but we need to apply for the grant, because we own the land, and we can't just flip that ownership. So what happened with the Skateboard Society is they did all their applications, and we had some struggles with them because they applied and we owned the land. So we'll have to form a partnership maybe with the town, and Brian or come to council. I'm not quite certain of the process, but that might be the way to consider going forward, is making sure that the application for the grant has the landowner attached to it. And, I mean, the value then can be yours, can be used for the grant, right? It's
Right.
just the approval of the grant may end up having to come through the town.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll just, I think, yeah, great idea, so bring it forward, and with the grant application, maybe we can help you with consider helping with the rating of it.
Wonderful. Alright, thank you.
Anybody have any, Brian, did I
All I
get
know
you guys
is,
working on something you didn't know?
all I know is about 3 or 4 years ago, we took out one tree that was kinda leaning over the old Norman Jewelry Store.
Yep.
And I know it cost the town over $1,000 for that one tree alone. So we had to bring in a special company, cause the trees are so big and it's.
And that, my understanding, ATCO's ability to take the trees down, Wes Fraser's gonna buck them up,
Yeah.
chop them up
Yeah.
for firewood and remove the shale and provide the tables. So that's from the discussions we had for their 60th anniversary, at the rodeo ground. So, those big costs would be taken care of.
Yeah, it's good. Good for the town.
So is it okay if we tell APCO, go ahead, start chopping the trees, or?
I have letters of intent that I wanna send out, but I wanted to get permission first.
We'll have to direct administration to get that to you guys.
Perfect. You know my number.
Councilor Carey.
If I may, Madam Chair, make a motion out of the scheduled delegations.
Can we make a motion to schedule that?
It's a matter of,
I'd like to make a motion to direct administration to investigate and bring back to the next regular council meeting different options to assist Hyperion Beautification Association in their pursuit to develop McIntyre Park, and also to investigate the different grant processes.
Did he write that?
Yeah, look at that.
Give me that copy.
That's why he's a counselor.
All in favor?
Cool.
Did you write? Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Let's see, public delegations. So, protective services, no? Public works. Or do we really go?
I make a motion that council approve the minutes from September 29th, 2015 regular meeting of council as presented.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Sorry, discussion.
on page 8,
It all comes.
Are you gonna find a
motion,
spelling mistake?
well, I believe the Hyperion District Golf Clubhouse should be 2 words, not 1. It's the
This is a
club's
sandwich.
house, it's not the sandwich.
What page?
Page 8, motion 561/15.
Oh, yes.
Anything else? All in favor of accepting them as amended? Special council meeting October 5, 2015, Councilor Long.
Make a motion that council accept the special meeting of council October 5th, 2015 minutes.
Any discussion? All in favor? 3B, business arising, intermunicipal committee meeting agenda items. Councilor Knacker.
The council forward administration any items they would like to be added to the October 19th, 2015 intermunicipal committee meeting agenda.
Discussion. Councilor Carey.
The only, number 4, I'd like to add, for the library, see if you guys can get extra funding from the MD in lieu of rent money the town is housing the library. perhaps the library can get some extra funds from the MD, seeing as how,
It's matching 1-to-1.
is it already matching?
No, but that's a good idea is what I'm saying.
So just something for you guys to bring up.
Library rent,
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanna call it rent or how it's supposed to be worded, but
what you would do for library rent is that you would ask the library to put that into their budget, what the rent is, and that would be part of their operating budget. Half of that would then be paid for by the county.
the only reason I'm asking for that is I know the library has been in several times asking for extra funds. I know it might not be much, but if we're asking everybody to hold the line, perhaps this is a way for the library to get a little bit of extra funds.
Not really, because we have told them to hold the line on the 2015 budget, and if you put rent in, then they're not gonna be able to hold the line, because that will be an extra,
Mm-hmm.
so.
That's
Still
where
want-
we could look at exceptions.
Well, he did say,
Yeah.
so, you want us to bring this up at the intermunicipal, that.
If council so chooses for this to be something that we'd like to add in.
I think it's better for the library to do it that way than to go to the intermunicipal directly. That's my thinking.
But you don't plan to deceive the library to do that very thing.
Well, there are some people on the library board that will just over this asking for rent, because they have told us time and time again that
The town
libraries
has to provide the space rent-free.
rent-free.
We know that, they know that, the county councillor knows that. They've come to us multiple times.
Yeah.
But it is a good idea that if the county's wishful, match the donation from the town.
So the suggestion being that we determine a rental amount.
What I'm asking is just for whoever sits on the intermunicipal committee to
Comfortable with
word it somehow, some way to see if they can't get extra funds from the MD. Somehow for the library, I don't know if you wanna call it rent because it's housed in town, in High Prairie. I'll leave that in your guys' hands.
Counselor Archer?
Yeah, all I was gonna say is it really comes down to is, the town is providing the space. And if it was rented out commercially, it might be $2,000 a month or something. So that is because it's matched dollar for dollar already between the two parties. It'd be wonderful if the MD stepped up.
If I can just say, from working with the county, they're already feeling that they're contributing a lot to the town with the amounts that they are, the grants that they give the town, so pushing that for that little bit of money to put that other things at jeopardy and risk that, I go, I would hate to bring that one forward to be, that's my opinion on it.
Any further comments? I have one comment and just, I mean, and I totally hear what you're saying, and I see that there is definitely value, and there's probably a few situations where we're the ones that have the buildings and are housing them, and we have no tax base out of them, and we're paying for the infrastructure, and I get that. But further to what Councillor Panasic just said, at AUMA, I'm in sessions over and over again, had the opportunity to discuss with other councillors or ask questions about IDPs and different things that brought up how we handle things in our own community. And when I brought up that we had an intergovernmental or intermunicipal agreement that was a 50-50 cost sharing, and that we actually did get some money for infrastructure, they applauded us. And they said, good on you guys, and we need to learn from you guys, how you guys can get along with your county as well as you do. So I do hear you, and you know that I have been the biggest advocate for trying to be fair and split between the county and the town. So yes, we should probably bring this up and see how maybe it can, make mention of the fact that there's that we do hold the buildings here, and they're rent free, and it could be just a reminder that that is a way that we're contributing. But just so you know, a lot of the other municipalities don't have the same success that we've had.
And I also know that they're putting in a lot for the airport, what, the 90-10 split on that one, and you know, that's a facility both are using, so to, I just, in my thoughts, I just don't know if that's the hill to push on.
Again, it doesn't hurt to ask. If we got this great relationship going, they might.
Actually, I feel it does hurt to ask, and I would be in agreement with Councillor Panasic at this time. We went through a lot of flack last year to get that $1 million, and the response was that, you know, and then you turned around, lowered taxes, et cetera, et cetera. Miscommunication on what we did with the $1 million. I think this time, I would feel better not asking for this item. I would rather go forward with the enhanced policing and a real discussion on whether we should continue with that. So, definitely an item, but I think it should go to the library first, and not this year, but next year, because we've already told them hold the line. And then we're gonna tell them, well, no, we want you to put some extra dollars in for rent, but I think next year is a good, 2017 budget would be a better time to do this.
So there was a motion on the table, you just wanted to add that.
It was just for
conversation.
discussion. If anybody else wanted it added, but it doesn't sound like it is going over favorably, so.
So what is the motion that's on the table?
It was that we get items to
Items.
be added to administration.
So does anybody have any further items?
Well, and if they do, they could send them into administration soon, and then they could get it on the agenda. So we got the 3 items now, and could add more later, if somebody sends them in.
Everybody's good with that? If you have items, send them in. We have an intermunicipal meeting on the, did it say here? 19th. Yeah, coming up right away. All in favor? Appointment of chief elected official.
Hey, actually, I'd like to make a motion that council direct administration to bring back bylaw. Where is it?
The procedural bylaw?
No, this
Oh,
is
no,
the
you're gonna have
chief
to develop
elected
one, sorry.
official.
The council direct administration draft a bylaw regarding the appointment to the CEO and bring back CEO.
Chief elected official.
Oh, okay. Oh, chief elected official and bring back to a future council meeting.
Electoral officer, isn't it?
This,
I'm not sure what they wanna classify it as. It's the election of council, town council. So we want a bylaw regarding the election of town council and the process. My request would be that, for our next election, that 7 councillors are voted in. And at that time, a chair is nominated or a mayor is nominated year by year basis by the council. The problem can be is that if you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people running for mayor, only one gets in. The other candidates, although they may be highly qualified and very beneficial to council, are out. Because you either run for mayor or you run for council. And so we lose very good candidates.
I can understand what Councillor Emperor is saying, but is there not a motion that's been passed by past councils that we have to have a plebiscite to see if this is the way they want it?
There was no plebiscite in the MGA. It states that you have to have a plebiscite.
But there was a motion passed by a previous council that said it has to go to a plebiscite.
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm sure I had seen that in something.
There was a councillor, previous councillor that tried to get this done also, and it was defeated. But I don't know anything about a plebiscite, sorry.
Personally, I would like to have it go to a plebiscite. I would like the citizens of High Prairie to make that choice. I don't feel that it's my right to to take that away from them if that's how they choose to vote.
Councillor Long?
And 2 weeks ago, when you had mentioned that you were looking at doing this, I had stated then that I think it's an issue of plebiscite. And I still hold that to be true. It's up to the people to decide if they want to see a drastic electoral change in the process in which all of our elections for the past how many years have been. If they want to change, then it's up to them to make that decision, not us. We don't have that mandate.
Councillor Empter?
I would remind council that we're all voted in here to make change, to make decisions on the behalf of every member in town. Every resident's not member actually. They're not members of a society. But we come here and we make decisions every day on dollars, on grants, on presentations, and then we give directions. We don't go to plebiscites. We spend $8 million a year because that's our mandate. So our mandate is to do the best job we can for the representation of the residents of the town. I feel that would be a cost that would be incurred, and I don't see a negative side to this. Because I see the opportunity that hopefully the 7 best candidates get voted in.
I agree with Councillor Danaka and Councillor Long that this is a structural change to our council, and that it would be something to ask the citizens of the town. It hasn't got anything to do with spending money or new construction or development permit or things like that. Nobody said anything about this when we were running for election, and if we had, it would have been an election issue, I'm sure. So again, if you're going to if you're going to make this, we should be looking at letting the people know. Now you can do it by plebiscite, or you can do it as Falher did it. They elect their mayor, and I'm not sure if their mayor is elected for an annual term or whether it's elected for the 4-year term at the first organizational meeting. But their conversation took place over a whole year, and it was talked about in the coffee shop, it was written up in the newspaper, there was a lot of feedback on it. And again, it was a smaller community, did not have the population that we have. It's only, I believe, 1,000. And I could see where they're having trouble. We never have trouble. We had how many people running for council and how many people running for mayor? I don't think that that we're in the straits that McLennan or smaller communities, Falher, Donnelly is, where people are not wanting to run. They do run, they come out and they choose to run either for councillor or mayor.
Councillor Craitor?
I agree with Councillor Empter. I would like to see, like our partner to the east, or our surrounding partner, the MD does, but I also agree with the other comments that it has to be a plebiscite. Something of this nature, I believe, should be brought to the people and let them decide what they would like to see. This is a big issue, and I'd be in support of it if it went to plebiscite.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you. I like the idea, but I also know that this is something we should get feedback from the community on. It has a big impact, so having a plebiscite and some information that goes out, and the pros and the cons, and we know we've talked a lot about getting public involvement. This will get public involvement, guaranteed. But that's good.
I'm in agreement. I do totally agree that we should let consider having 7 council being voted in. I agree with Councillor Empter where we were actually elected in for change. We were told that there was 9 CAOs in the last 11 years, and we continue to hire them and pay them out when things didn't work out and cost the community a lot of dollars. And then we decided this year to do something different. And we hired from within. And that didn't happen very often in the past history of High Prairie, and we're feeling very confident with that being a change. Didn't go to the public necessarily for that change. I hear you with the plebiscite. I really don't know the cost of that. If it's really not a costly thing, I don't think the taxpayers want us to spend money on this decision, a lot of money on this decision. I think that if it's not a very costly thing, then maybe there's a lot of value in going to the public. But I've talked about this for the past couple of years once we brought up rotating chair. We looked at sort of some of the options. We looked at the rotating chair option, and there's a lot of communities that don't do that, and they were surprised that we did that. But they applauded us and said, wow, you know, like now you will have control on your council meetings. If you have a rotating chair, then one person can't take control and say, you know what, it's me for 4 years, there's nothing you can do about it, too bad, so sad. Because we have the option to vote in a chair every council meeting. That's part of the process, right? Part of it is educational, part of it, like there's a number of reasons, but part of it is you will always be able to have control, because if somebody does want to be chair and if somebody is out of control, you can say, you know what, I'm not voting for you anymore, right? And we have been applauded when we have these discussions when we go to AUMA. And when I've had this conversation, because I said, how come all the little towns and the little cities vote for a mayor versus all the MDs and the counties? Because the counties and the hamlets and, well, a lot of those out of area communities vote in 7 or 9 council or whatever, and they never vote for a mayor or a REIT. They elect from within. And they say that we want, one, to sort of see the representation from the area. We want everybody to be able to, put their name forward, and we're going to vote in who we feel in the area is the best. And then those people who we feel were the best elected decisions for our area, we're going to trust them to make the best decision as to who's going to represent the entire community. And not anybody that I spoke to in a small town could tell me why they thought it was better to do it different than how the counties do it. Most of them agreed that they struggle to get names put forward for mayor, and that they lose, just what Councillor Richter said, their top councillors from being, or their stronger councillors that have already been, well trained, and when they put their name forward as mayor, and if 3 of these councillors or 4 of these councillors decide to put their name next time forward as mayor, we will lose 3 of them. We will get one, and we will have a brand new council again. And I think that will cost the taxpayers of High Prairie way more money than changing the voting system, which still allows them to have exactly the same people and to vote for the people that they feel are qualified to represent the area. Mayor Cox.
The people that I talk to don't applaud us for having a different chair. In fact, they say, I don't understand how you let that go through, as if I have any control over it, which I don't. It is through villages and towns, summer villages, all of the urbans, we're an anomaly, we're an outlier, and that's just the way it is, because it was chosen that this was what was gonna happen. So I don't know whether you're talking to rurals, yeah, you probably would be applauded because that's the way they do it. When you talk to urban, not so much. However, the cost-efficient way to do this would be put it on the ballot as a ballot question the next election. Change is always something that could be brought forward. You would put it on the ballot, they would choose it, you get another 4 years with the mayor, and if they choose then at the next one, what is another 4 years? Doesn't really make any difference in the big scheme of things. So, it's something that you're looking at a big change, not just a small one as to who chairs the meeting and who doesn't. You're actually looking at a change in your organizational structure that has been taking place since 1956. So I'm not so sure I think the change is good for that. And again, we have a large pool of people that run for council, and we also have people who run for mayor. I don't see where we're losing people from either one of the different capacities that are being voted in. The other thing that I wanted to say on a lot of these councils, the reason that you are getting people that are running for mayor is because they're voting in blocks, and we don't have that problem. we don't sit as a block and say, there's 4 here and there's 3 there and the 3 are always outnumbered. The voting structure that's going around here, and you cannot tell who's supporting who until the actual vote goes down. So that's just one of the things that make this council work, I think, a bit better, is that we don't line up and know which ones are always gonna support some person. The issue is what determines which way you're going to vote. That's right.
4 years of continuation would mean again that there's the opportunity that you've just missed, having some possibly better counselors on council than can be there. I think Mayor Cox was running a few years back, and there were 4 people running for mayor at that time. I think Mr. Dumont won. It might have been nice to have Councillor Cox also on the committee, or Councillor Vanderwell and Councillor Vanderwell, yourself, and
I never
Dumont,
ran
and somebody else.
and lost.
Right?
So-
Or who was it? Rolly?
So I never ran for
Okay.
council. Never ran.
Not for council, it was for
No,
mayor.
and I wouldn't have run. I wouldn't have run for
Okay.
council.
For mayor.
I would only
He's-
run for mayor,
no,
and
he's
I
saying
only
mayor.
ran for mayor.
I
He's saying
thought
that
you
you
did
ran.
run for mayor and you lost. Okay, I might not have been then, my apologies, but I do remember there was Councillor Vanderwell, Mayor Dumont, and there was Rolly, I think there was one more. I think there were 4 that were running that year. And it might have been nice to have that opportunity, that if some of those other candidates were worthwhile to have on council, to vote them in. I just think that, it's okay, I lost my train of thought.
I left the station.
There are those individuals who feel that they have a strong vision and a strong direction that they want to take their town in, whether it's here or anywhere else. And with their leadership skills and their experience, they feel that they're the best suited candidates to run for mayor. And they wouldn't, as the mayor's already said, they wouldn't be the ones to say, oh, you know what, no, I'll run for council. I'll be a councilor instead. They want to set the agenda, they want to set the direction in which the town's going. A prime example is the mayor's sometimes heated discussions regarding the lowering of taxes, which has come to fruition, and we've done it. And sometimes with some heated debate, but our mill rate's down, our taxes down, our cost of spending is down. Kudos. She had a vision, she fought for it tooth and nail. If she was a counselor, she might not have had that ability or that desire or push or direction from council to allow her to make that. Yeah. People who want to run for mayor will run for mayor. Period.
The structural change was the other part I wanted to talk back to. Since we've already got the bylaw in for the chair, which I'm putting forward to remove later today, it's already in place. That structure's already in place, where it's kind of, you've got a co-mayor, basically, as a chair. Someone who's running the meeting, somebody who's running the show, or she, sorry, at that time. So that structure's already in place.
I think that there's just as much value to our agendas as councillors. And I'm sort of disappointed that you feel like that running for the mayor would add more value, and that you would have a more important agenda, or you would push it more effectively, or you
I'm
would
saying
have
that
it
the
passed. I think we all work together as a team. And I think that
Yes.
the councils that do work together as a team prove to be more effective. And I have seen more success out of councils that are in counties, not just our county, but other counties, because there is some accountability to having to, the reeve or the mayor or whatever position that they call it, and you can call it mayor, it doesn't have to change the title. But now you have to convince the council who is going to be the most suited candidate for taking the community forward. So it's everybody's agendas, and at that point, you haven't sort of lost your best council, as Councillor Amter sort of spoke of, and that does happen. I've watched that happen in this community. And to say that we have a lot of people stepping up, I have watched years where how many people got in because there was nobody else that put their name forward. And there's by-elections because people drop out, and then one name goes forward, and then they're in. So I don't think we have an abundance of it. And I think that it maybe in areas like Edmonton and Red Deer where there's a long list of candidates and there's that opportunity to sort of have that list. Here we do lose our better or our stronger or our trained council doing it this way, because otherwise they choose to say, okay, I'm not gonna run because I wanna make sure that I get in and maybe I have a better chance there's only one person that's going to be mayor. So if 4 of us run, there's a guarantee that only one of us is coming back. Right? Or somebody other's name going forward. But I don't agree that the mayor's agenda has the opportunity to become more visible to us or more apparent.
I think,
Can I speak first? Let me speak first.
sure,
Chair is a chair position to wrap up discussion, not to bring forward rebuttal opinions and other things like that. That's what the chair is. So debating is not part of the chair's responsibility. The chair is to guide the meeting and let the rest of us talk. Basically, as the chair, you're inputting too much into the meeting. I'm sorry.
Well, I apologize if you think I've been putting too much into the meeting. I think this is a very important topic, and I think that I was voted in just like the rest of you for my opinion to be brought forward. And this is one that I would like to make sure that my opinion is brought forward. Councillor Armstrong?
According to Robert's Rules of Order, a small council like ourselves, the chair is allowed to make the motion, second the motion, or debate the motion at any time. So a chair is encouraged to speak in a small council setting, such as ours.
So,
I got the page number for you. I had an argument with somebody.
yeah.
Councillor Knaus?
I'm just gonna say, we can tell this is a heated discussion, and it would be a good discussion with the people, but we need to sort of wrap this up, because I mean, I get a feeling of where we're going with this, and you know, what I see is happening is we need to get some input from the public. We need to maybe draft up a bylaw so that, and then we can take that forward to the people. Let them debate it and have some good discussion and have them vote on it in some type of a plebiscite. And we can discuss when that would be, whether it's at the next election or whether it's in the next year. They could nail that down. But I'd rather see it happen before the next election. That's my thoughts, but I know we need to get it out to the people to vote on it and go from there. And maybe we could make a motion where we could get an estimate on cost of what it would cost to hold a plebiscite.
So should we vote on the motion? Do you have one more comment?
Yeah. There was mention of block voting, and where I can see the dangers and the disadvantages of having the process that Councillor Emter is putting forward is that you would get a block of voters or a block of candidates that would run, and then it's a popularity contest or an agenda push contest to get their person elected as mayor around the table. And then the people really don't have a say as to who is mayor and who is not. It'll happen. I guarantee it'll happen. Maybe not the first term, but it will happen to be a block of voters in a chamber or an organization, or a group of people will get their group in, and then they'll elect their mayor regardless of the people's wishes. People's wishes wouldn't matter. It's the block that matters now. It's not the best way to go, and it's not clear, transparent democracy. It's not. Anyways, that's my say. It's done. I'm good.
Any further
And you're wrong.
discussion? So again, the motion, would you read it back, Nancy?
Council direct administration to draft a bylaw regarding the appointment of the chief elected official and bring back to a future council meeting.
So the motion is just to bring back a bylaw. It's not to make a decision, it's to continue the discussion. All those in favor? Opposed?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. Make a motion to direct administration to to bring forward to the next regular meeting of council the cost of a plebiscite and all the information on the process to do so.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Oh, that was a escape.
That was interesting.
5A1. Finance. Status of grants finance. Counselor Enter.
Make a motion that council receive for information updated regarding the status of the grants authorized by council for 2015.
Comment? Question? Oh, is this for you? Yeah. Sorry.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. So I take it the carried items are promised, the crossed out items are spent?
In the report, cross-eyed items basically were not done, so they were defeated.
They say carried.
What about the carried ones?
Or there were changes. The carried ones, there were portions of it that were not done.
Could you
So
explain?
in other words, where it was carried, it was except for information, was the motion that was carried. So there was no action that was required to be done, no funding to go out.
Receive for information, every one of those.
Okay, so if you look at the wording within those. The biggest thing we found is that things were not being costed correctly as far as the grants, especially with the cost for tax grants, where relief was given for taxes. Basically, the taxes were written off and the amount was taken out of the revenues. The revenue shouldn't be adjusted at all. The revenues for taxes should still be there. The expense for providing those grants should be accountable and in one area of the budget. So that's where we're going through and saying, okay, and you can see where I said that they haven't been done. We're going through and trying to find those. We're also trying to follow up with some of the ones where the grants were provided. Looking through at the listing of expenditures, they're not all visible there, so I'm not sure whether they were actually given out. And so there's still more work that's required on this. The biggest amount is the tax grants. And as I said, we should be able to cost how much we're giving out in grants for taxes or for any specific purpose, whether it's a grant from council, whether it's a grant from development purposes, etc. So what we're saying is we're trying to get this information straight, and that way we can get the accounting done properly, and then that way we'll also have a better idea when we go into the budget process for 2016, what we, based on history. Several years ago, it was done that, the expenses were costed against the grants. All the revenues for taxes were coming in because they're potential revenues we would have every year.
Counselor Frederick?
A couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Motion 9715, page 20 of the agenda. The line item, or the ledger number 211770 was scratched out and a new,
There was an amendment to that correction afterwards, done.
so what
it's-
line, or what, where is that coming from, what account?
Account 251 is, I believe, a health account, public spending for health purposes. In this case, it's golden age, so FCSS,
Okay.
those type of grants.
Second question, motions number 98 and 99, also on page 20. Did we approve there for $49,000 to the Golden Age Club, or how did that work? I tried looking back and I can't.
And that's what we're in the process of trying to find out, because it's the same thing. I'm not sure, Brian, maybe you can answer that question.
The only one I can say was approved was, motion 9915. And that was for the renovations that they had, the roof.
Correct, but the way I read this, we approved $25,000, and then we went ahead and approved another $24,000 to do the repairs on the roof. So the way this reads, the Golden Age Club should have received $49,000.
And I don't know what the 25,000.
25 would have been cash and 24,000 in lieu.
Yeah, so we're trying to investigate that and find out exactly what the resolution we have to go back and read the package, if anything was prepared in detail with the package that came to council, or if it was just part of the budget package. I can't
And my
speak to it because I
final-
wasn't here, so.
My final question I had for you.
Yeah.
Motion number 415, why was the last half of the motion scratched out?
There was two portions, one that waived the tax penalty on that, so
Yep.
that was carried through on. The remainder of that was except for information, the refund of the 2013 taxes, so that was just to receive for information, so there's no action there to write that amount of taxes off, only the waive the penalty on it.
Okay, thanks, that answers all my questions.
Any other questions?
I had a similar kind of questions
Mhm.
where I notice on page 20, the second one down, or 8915, it was the tax grant or approved the addition in the amount of 14,000 to the final operating budget for the seed cleaning plant. And then over on the next page, 40715, it talks about 17,298 be waived for the seed co-op. So yeah, when I look at these motions, it's like, oh, this is confusing, so I can see what you're
Yeah.
going through.
And it's, I think what's happened is they have the original amount of taxes that was done back, and that time would have been back in February. The tax hadn't been assessed yet for the year, so by June, after the tax notice went out, there would have been the actual amount of taxes.
Oh, okay.
And so, and I'm not saying it does, but it may have been brought back just so that the correct amount would be reflected, and that way when the auditors come back and say, was this approved for write-off, they would have the correct amount shown.
Instead of just the difference.
Yeah. Either. That answer that?
I think so, yeah. It'll be interesting trying to track it all down.
This is only one area, sorry. It's a challenge, it's fun.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important as well to have really clear motions. So
Exactly.
that you go back and
Yeah.
read it for the situations like
When I've
this,
gone
it
through with
makes sense.
municipal affairs on this type of stuff, and they always say it's basically the 5 W's supposed to have in there, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. So when everything's covered there, it's very clear, so when the administration goes to read, it's very clear what action the council is expected us to do. And if you leave something open for interpretation, it can happen.
Be
And
misinterpreted.
we thought we were getting there, until you see it this way and you go, ooh, how come there's two? And I think the motions are clear, but they're not, they
It's a
contradict
two
each
numbers.
other,
It's a two
yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would have possibly, my recommendation would have been to rescind the first one and come back with the second one with the, but, it's just a matter of how you do it.
Councillor Empter?
Yeah, on page 22, the CRC, where was it here? 132/15, moved by Mayor Cox, the council approved the grant request for the CRC in the amount of up to 3,110. And then I think it ended up being almost half of that. Because they had an opportunity to sell it back to us, that property. Did we purchase it, Brian? Where the modular was, the parent lake, when they moved it, did we purchase it back and then we put it up for sale?
Yeah, it's up for
So
sale.
there's a sign up there?
Yeah.
So I think we only gave up 6 months, or roughly 6-7 months of taxes on that.
So that needs to be.
So the motion is up to, but the amount's gonna be much less, it's like 1,700 or something.
And again, it would help if we'd had some of the wording in there, whether it's what the grant is for, if it's for taxes. I know it's in the package, it comes in the council package, but the
That's-
motions are the minutes are the final thing that stays on for history. The packages disappear. So if somebody comes down 5 years ago and tries to read what that grant was for, it doesn't say what it was for, where it was to be charged to, et cetera. So hopefully in the future we'll work a little closer together and be able to get those type of things right into the motions.
It sounds like there's lots of value in that. Anybody else have any thoughts, comments?
Any questions?
All in favor? Thank you. Councillor Carrier, 5.B.1.
Make a motion that council leaves the size and types of pictures to be placed in the council chambers to the direct discretion of the museum creator, Ms. Darlene Adams, and that council directs administration to invite museum curator Darlene Adams to view council chambers and present her proposal for pictures in the chamber at a future council meeting.
I'll look at you go. Questions, comments, discussion?
Well, I guess I'm just wondering about the and.
Well, there
'Cause-
There was 3 choices here. There was the first one, or a second one, or a third one, and I chose to put 2 of them together. Hence the and.
Okay, but the first one is saying giving her the discretion.
But I'm also inviting her to come and talk to us as well.
So before she puts them up, she can come and show us what are these pictures of?
Okay, so then that's really the only motion that counts, right? Because she's not gonna put up anything at her discretion, she's coming in to talk to us about it.
So the first part of the motion says that council leaves the size and types of pictures to be
Oh, it's up
placed
her.
in the council chambers to the discretion of the museum creator.
Yeah.
And I'm also inviting the museum creator, Darlene Adams, to view the council chambers and present her proposals to us at a future council meeting.
For information for us, courtesy.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor? 5B2. Yeah.
The council received the town of Okotoks policy regarding handling anonymous, frivolous, and vexatious complaints and inquiries for information.
Any discussion? Are you trying to say something right there?
This is my I'm thinking face.
Okay, nobody
I'm
has
quite
anything to,
Well, I guess I'm just wondering why we wouldn't want to have a policy in place that would deal with these if we're having any issues. That would be what your thoughts are on that?
Councilor Kerry?
For as far as we've been told, we don't get that many complaints, and the odd time that you do come in the office to check the mailbox, whatever, you can see that the complaints are being handled very well. I've seen the girls come and talk to the past CAO and the current CAO. So issues are being dealt with, and we had one resident that was numerous complaints about the same issue. And when it was tried to deal with, it come to a close, so I don't see a purpose for this.
Councilor Andrew?
Just to inform Councilor Carrier, it never came to a close. The citizen wouldn't, or didn't meet and didn't request any of the further dates to actually meet when invited.
Correct, yeah.
So, it's a pending pattern and issue in the background that just pops up when the person's irritated.
Two things, I look on page 30 and I see that in the third sentence, amounts to an abuse of the complaints and or inquiry process. Do we have a process that this is referring to? And I don't think we do, so if we don't have a process, how are you going to deal with so, and the other thing is, when I look at page 35, and it says, staff are responsible for creating and maintaining a record of their interactions with difficult complaints, whose definition is difficult? And then they say, in order to justify any action being taken to restrict the complainant's access to town staff, again, I don't think we have a process of recording complaints that is, I think it's because we get so few of them, they're just dealt with. So if all complaints are being dealt with at this point, why are we putting in a policy that is probably never going to be used? Or if it is, it's not going to be used correctly because we don't have the original process.
Councilor Panassa?
Well, when it comes to a process, I know there is a way when we make complaints, and this is Okotoks policy, not ours. Our policy would have to be worded so it reflects our process, not theirs. So that could be dealt with, and your question about whose definition of whose definition, it boils down to it would boil down to the CAOs, because you have to take it up to say this is happening. And I think this is it's not likely gonna be used, and I agree that, most of the complaints do get dealt with. But it's a proactive way of putting in a policy that if we do have problems, the policy there is to deal with these. And it can be dealt with. If we leave it, we may end up with problems in the future and we have no policy to deal with it. At least if it's there and not used, wonderful, it's great. I'd rather see it in and not used.
I agree entirely with Councillor Panasic. I'm sure that we have a bullying harassment policy which hopefully is never used, but it's there in case somebody is stepping outside of line. And then we have a process, a policy to follow. If a process is missing, it would be developed or bring this back to a future date then.
And I brought this forward because of exactly that. It was brought forward at a session that I was at AUMA, where the councillor said that instead of, they advised everybody in the room that instead of waiting for a problem to happen in your community, consider putting a policy in place. They dealt with some anonymous complaints and it took a lot more time, a lot more manpower, a lot more dollars to be able to deal with them. If they would have had a policy in place, they wouldn't have had to spend quite as much time on it. So I agree that I brought forward in the thought process was just to be preventative and to allow our administration to have policies to guide them and have answers to all the issues when they come up. But this one, yeah, maybe this isn't exactly the policy that we drafted. All we're looking at is, should we bring back a draft and then continue to discuss it? Anything further? Can you read back the motion, Nancy?
It was,
Oh, sorry, there was a name.
My only concern on this, I mean, yes, it's good to be proactive, absolutely. Do we ever wanna see them used? No. But my concern right now is that we have a CAO that we've just brought on board and we have a lot of issues to deal with. And I'm not sure how much time and energy this one would take. But I'm thinking it's gonna be a lengthy process to try to draft up and bring forward something to council when I think our CAO probably has a million other things that they'd rather be doing. And it on a scale of 1 to 10, where does this fall? I just don't see it being up there yet. But that's just my opinion.
My thought process on that was, it doesn't have to become number one priority, but it can be something that is put on a list of things that maybe need to be looked at. We have a policy from another town that's already gone through this process. I don't imagine it's reinventing the wheel, it's tweaking a policy that they've already put in place and they've already worked through. It's using the opportunity to network with other towns and communities and say, what do you guys do here, what do you guys do here, let's bring this here, let's make a few changes that may eliminate some potential problems in the future. And yes, I agree with you that there's a lot more important issues that need to be dealt with, but it was something that came up and I thought that we should at least consider putting it forward. Any other comments? So Nancy, the motion is for
it was for information.
All those in favor? Opposed? Any other motions?
Yes, and I'd like to withdraw. What does it say about withdrawing?
You can ask for a second,
Yes, I want a vote.
revote.
Revote.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Oh, sure, I thought we convinced her. I thought she reconsidered her position and she was moving on it. I was happy with that.
Shows that she'll listen to others.
Okay, a revote. All those in favor?
For
To receive for information.
Receive for information.
All
Yes.
those opposed? Carried.
The council forward the topic of the citizen engagement policy to the upcoming strategic planning meeting that is being held October 20th, 2015.
Call the question.
Call the question. Any further?
I would like to discuss this. My God, I mean.
I withdraw my call the
I
question.
have 6 pages here, but I'm ready to call the question too.
Your turn then.
Let's do it.
It's just moving it for discussion, like, come on.
I think it's a good idea to move it forward to strategic planning and to have the discussions there too. So I know I brought it forward as well, and there is a lot of information, so maybe that discussion